Okay, you can start your presentation now.
Okay, so good day everyone. I hope you guys are ready for a productive session. Today, my colleague Mika Ramkisoon and myself, Crystal Nanla, will be enlightening you guys on chapter 5 about understanding others. Our learning objectives today, well, you'll be able to explain gender, ethnicity, and cultural diversity, and why is it diversity is so important to understand others. You will also be able to distinguish amongst the different leadership styles associated with understanding others. You will be able to explain why communication is needed and how to resolve conflict. And how does decision making affect leadership and understanding others? Our focus was derived from summarizing the chapter. So, as I mentioned before, we'll talk about characteristics of gender, ethnicity, and cultural diversity, pluralistic, conventional, and relational leadership style, communication and conflict, and decision making. So, we'll touch on each of these topics today, right?
Yes.
Hi everyone, can you all hear me? Okay, good. Good afternoon, class. I'm Mika Ramkisoon, and we're starting off understanding others with gender diversity and how it impacts how a child will act or react in social environments. Gender diversity represents the equality of men and women, each recognizing each as a balanced equals. Gender roles amongst men and women. Has society evolved and is it a major issue in workplaces? Yes, society has evolved from its standardized perception of what a man versus a woman should do with their lives, but it is still a controversial issue in workplaces and households. You know, from a child's development, you can observe how they'll communicate in workplaces. Right. Although you raise both girls and boys equally, they are exposed to the public domain, example, schools. When they're exposed to the public domain, they may be introduced to gender roles. An extroverted child usually becomes leaders in group settings and are competitive, whereas introverted children value social relationships and aren't very competitive. These factors greatly contribute to the growth of a child. However, both boys and girls have the ability to lead effectively or be a solitary contributor, but they may execute each role differently. Why is gender diversity important? It's important because it promotes productivity, where both genders may have different viewpoints. This enables better problem solving, ultimately leading to superior performance. It provides intrinsic or basic value of respect and acknowledgement. It offers a wide range for talent and innovation, which benefits workplaces' creativity. And there, all of these factors are important because of the different approaches each gender will take when performing. Moving on to cultural diversity or multicultural appreciation in ethnicity and culture. These are correlated and can be defined as a system where society as a whole accepts and recognizes different groups and values of persons. This basically means being unbiased and appreciating each culture as individual equals. Important aspects of multiculturalism. When working in a multicultural environment, it's crucial to understand the cultural differences in leadership style and how everyone employees interact. Culture is more than just your race or ethnicity, although it has a major part in it. Culture can be determined by how a group of people think, feel, and behaves, meaning their values, their beliefs, and styles of communication. Usually, your background setting, meaning how you're raised or how people treated you based on your religion or race, determines how you react in social environments. To support multiculturalism, we must recognize each culture and have respect for them, showing acknowledgement and quality of value in celebration. Appreciating multiculturalism forms a bond amongst teammates where, although we may all appear different, we see each other equally. Okay, quick question. When working in social groups or activities, have you ever felt challenged because of your gender, ethnicity, and how people perceive your personality based on your appearance? Yes or no? Don't answer at once.
Yes, I have experienced that recently.
All right, thank you. Well, you can use this self awareness. This sorry for the noise. You can use this self awareness discussed in the previous chapter by Ms. Mohammed and Devnish. Thank you. To understand others by firstly understanding yourself. All right, moving on to leadership. What makes a good leader? Generally speaking, a respected leader is someone that is understanding, guides a group to a common goal or idea, someone who is empathic, inspires and motivates others, and knows how to grasp attention. However, the way in which a leader goes about doing these things can vary tremendously depending on the individual's cultural background, gender, and social skills. Leadership stems from social influence, which creates harmony and generates efforts from others to achieve certain goals. Here shows a diagram of the different approaches a leader must take to successfully lead. In every group, each person has a right to be heard and a responsibility to listen. The leader should have a vision of what the group needs and how to work towards the goal. They should support guidance to complete tasks and solutions to queries asked. Together as a team, the leader and members will use direction and strategies to execute each activity with proper communication. At the bottom of the slide, there's a note stating how understanding others is a vital part of successful leadership and relationships amongst groups, which is facts, it's true. As important as it is to communicate with your group effectively, communication also works hand in hand with listening. You have to listen to what your members have to say to show an appreciation for their opinion, and they will respect that of you. Okay, dealing with the three main types of leadership styles, starting with pluralistic. This leadership encompasses and values diversity, recognizing each gender and culture. A pluralistic leader often works with groups of persons that has different cultures and beliefs and attempts to create unity amongst them to inspire change. Pluralism in society is highly needed, for it supports freedom of speech, religious expression, values race and political opinions, and appreciates each gender and sexual orientation. Pluralism allows members to express their beliefs freely, understanding, oh, sorry, understanding the different approaches people from different countries use can be a rewarding experience. Individuals' background and country's culture play a role in how they act or react in social environments. Example, other countries may be male dominated whereas others may be equal. Realizing these different approaches of different countries' society can help develop a better understanding in group work to work more effectively with teammates. Everyone understanding everything so far?
Yeah,
Yes,
then
definitely.
So far, so
yes,
good.
definitely.
Okay, thank you. Now for conventional leadership style. This is not okay, it is not one that is often respected. This is where leaders present a dominant element of tradition or one-way flow of doing things over their members. Now, the world is ever changing and develops all the time. So it will be unethical to be a leader in this evolving society with the same mindset and values of the earlier centuries. This leadership style can be recognized as dominant corporate leadership. elements of a conventional leader. They are assumed to have poor interpersonal skills, meaning they don't value ethical communication. They are extremely direct in approaching others, coming off as a bully trait. And their narrow mindedness favors discrimination, like racism or sexism. For these reasons, conventional leaders are disliked in social places. Alright, relational leadership. This style targets relational skills within an individual and teams. It focuses on synergy amongst persons to achieve a common goal. And as Mr. Bisu said, it does depend heavily on ethics. Qualities of relational leaders include inclusion, making members feel involved, empowerment, showing confidence and authority, purposefulness, allowing each member to have a purpose in activities, displaying ethical behaviors when communicating and dealing with conflict, and process driven, focusing on the execution of each task with detailed steps. A relational leader appreciates trust and honesty. They use empathy to their advantage, connecting with members' feelings to make them feel safe. This means being able to understand what others are feeling without directly being told. They'll share motives and goals in order to accomplish tasks and make a difference using their self awareness to lead. Alright, here's an example of a relational leader. The 41st US President, Mr. George H.W. Bush. He developed long lasting friendships and professional relationships with people in authority and society. He was a relationship driven leader. Now, staying in the US president category, I'd say President Obama was a pluralistic leader. For he displayed all those qualities of freedom of expression and equality, right? And well, conventional leader. Yeah. Okay. A fun little activity y'all can do when in social environments, you can use this knowledge and leadership styles you just gained, you're welcome, to determine what type of leader the person in command is. That was the end of leadership styles. Now
Okay,
moving on to
so
communication.
anyone has any questions for Mika before we continue? Anybody?
Not right now, no.
Okay. Okay, so we're moving on to communication. So, communication. This is the act of transmitting information from one to another via mediums such as speaking, writing, etc. So, we use communication basically every day in our lives with groups and friends and family. We are communicating right now as we speak. So, this is basically what it is. In this chapter, we focus on only two segments of communication. So, this will be empathic communication, right? This is where we must take into consideration what we do, how we do it, and how it impacts others. So, we must have awareness. We need to be able to be considerate to others, to have empathic communication. We need to be aware of our surroundings, we need to be aware of how others are and whatnot. We need to be able to listen. We must listen. We can't just hear others when they speak or communicate. We need to listen, understand their feelings through their pleas, through their words. We need to listen to their emotion, look at their body language and whatnot. Right? We must have transparency and trust, right? You must be open and able to lend your trust to someone to communicate. Now, this is a bit challenging for persons in today's society. So, let me give you a little example, right? So, let me say you and your spouse, or you have a small dispute. And what do you think is the best way to reconcile? I think the best way to reconcile would be to lend him or her your trust as well as show your transparency to provide reassurance. A lot of people these days don't have that type of transparency or are able to have that type of trust, right? We must be able to have expression. Ex- Expressing yourself is the best way to communicate with someone or persons because expression reveals true emotions. And when people are exposed to your true emotions, you tend to win more hearts, not so? What you think?
Yes, yes.
Another segment of communication will be assertive communication, right? So, this is the ability to express positive and negative feelings in an open, honest, and direct way. So, for assertive communication, we're going to have positive and negative ideas. So, persons will project positive and negative ideas. These ideas that you have may help you understand whether it is good or not, basically. By pitching them, and feedback will be your best chance at understanding how persons feel about what you have in mind. So sometimes you may have a negative idea and it will lead people to think that, well, they question your morality and they question your integrity and whatnot. But you must be able to get that feedback in order to reflect and know if your idea is positive or negative. Same goes for positive and negative feelings. Behaviors are expressed by one's body language as well as their tones projecting good or bad feelings, and it will basically do the same as pitching your positive or negative ideas. And just, yeah, sorry about that. You must have you must be able to be honest and direct. Now, being honest and direct is a part of assertive communication. And I know a lot of people won't be honest and direct because, we want to be able to sympathize and not hurt anybody's feelings and whatnot. But you must be able to be honest and direct about your opinions to be assertive. This is a useful tool because a compromise can be agreed upon between parties. Because if you don't be honest and direct, the chances are nobody going to be satisfied with your decision or with the decision being made or the situation that is held, right? We must be able to recognize and respect and recognize, right? So others may have negative ideas and feelings, as well as being honest and direct, and even you as well, but you must have respect to create a good relationship with them. So, if someone is really projecting negative feelings or negative ideas and they're being really honest and direct about their opinions, you must respect their opinions in order to have good communication. Because if you don't respect what they are saying or like have no sense of compassion for what they are saying, then chances are there will be a very big argument. Okay, you must be able to recognize. So, um, recognizing would be recognizing if they project negative or positive feelings, right? You must take responsibility. So, taking responsibility for having these negative ideas or feelings will clear the air when communicating with persons. This will allow new opinions and feelings to come true, right? Negative thoughts lead to negative results, so take responsibility for your actions to prepare for an easier flow of communication. So, let's say you're in a group, and I know group work is very it has so many problems these days, and a lot of people may project negative feelings. You need to respect them and make sure that they realize that they are projecting that negative feeling. And if you are one of the members and you are projecting that negative feeling, You need to take responsibility for your actions so that you have a better relationship with your group members, okay? Any questions so far? Any questions?
So far,
Not at the
good.
moment.
Sorry? Questions? Okay. So we're moving on. Why is communication needed? Okay, so we need to pass on accurate information because if we don't have good communication, then there won't be any accurate information passing on, not so? We need communication to resolve conflicts. Conflicts can't resolve themselves. We need to have communication to understand others, to empathize and whatnot, as explained before, to promote more productivity. So if you're in a workplace or in a group work, obviously you're going to need communication to be able to finish the work and be more productive and to achieve trust. So when you communicate with others, you have a tendency to talk more and learn more about them. So you'll be able to achieve their trust whilst communicating. So moving on to conflict. So conflict, as we all know, because we all have been in conflicts, tension and disagreements on situations amongst persons in public, workplaces, and within hierarchies, businesses, or within group members too. So conflict resolution. Conflict resolution is never easy. Here are some points to help resolve sticky situations with peers, workers, or leaders, right? Third party involvement will help when things get really, really bad and there is no reconciling amongst the two persons. So we would need a third party to help resolve that conflict. We need to have communication, as I mentioned before, in order to resolve conflict. This compromising is something a lot of people find hard to do because everybody, well, not everybody, but some people, always want their own way. But we must be able to give a bit of ourselves and compromise to help resolve conflict. Agree to disagree. So if compromising isn't working and communication, like the argument or the conflict is just to a point where you can't agree with each other, you agree to disagree and resolve it. It really has nowhere to go after that because you are set on your ways, you are set on your opinion or whatever it is that you're disagreeing on or agreeing on, right? And flexible leadership. So a leader should, monitor the degree of conflict, and it encourages and inspires them and motivates them. If you have flexible leadership, you'll be able to listen to both sides and try to understand them and come up with a solution, right? So I have a question for you guys. Is conflict good or bad? What do you guys think?
I think both.
I agree. It's both, yeah.
Okay, so you're right. Conflicts can be both beneficial but as well disadvantageous, right? So let's take a look at some of the benefits with conflict. Benefits of conflict will be improving our listening skills. So when we are in conflicts and we are able to resolve conflicts, you are able to learn how to listen to others better. New ideas can come about with conflict. So like if you guys in a sticky situation or argument, you'll be able to find solutions and new ideas that could help with future disagreements amongst persons. Great solutions, as I just mentioned, is basically the same thing. And it helps you to set limits with how you interact with others. And it helps ease your tensions. The drawbacks or the disadvantages can be persons can be affected emotionally. So sometimes people in arguments can be affected really badly emotionally. If you're an emotional person like me, yeah, you'll be affected pretty badly by arguments. You well take it on and thing. But anyways, that could lead to distraction and unproductive behavioral patterns, right? So if you're in a workplace and you feel emotionally drained because of this argument, you're going to be very unproductive. You're going to be very distracted and you're not going to perform really well within your groups or your workplace or wherever it is that you had that disagreement or conflict, even within families as well. You're going to be very demotivated. So that it all leads up to a big spiral going down, right? So here is a scenario of conflict. So within a college course, right, I want you all to pay attention to this because you guys will do this and answer the question. Within a college course, there is a group work assigned to 5 persons: John, Anne, Adele, Shane, and Cindy decided to work together on their assigned tasks. Anne took up the mantle to keep the group organized and distribute work evenly amongst the members. However, there was one hiccup. Cindy decided she could no longer continue with the course and had to leave. John began slandering Cindy for leaving, which eventually turned into a heated argument. What can the leader do to help resolve this conflict as the leader of this group? So I want you all to take like a minute or 30 seconds, read over this scenario, and read the answers to the options that we have, and see what you all can come up with. You can choose one or more.
Um, is anyone just allowed to answer now or something?
Sorry?
Are you just allowed to answer now, or
Yeah, you could go ahead and answer if you're ready.
and you said you could choose more than one
Yes, you
option,
can.
right?
Yes, you can choose more than one option.
Well then I will go with 4, 6. I mean 4, 3, and then 6. And I say that because I would attempt to communicate with John and Cindy in
Mm-hmm.
terms of how things are happening. Then I would set boundaries within a group in terms of when we get together, it's to talk about a way moving forward and not to talk about anybody's personal life. Within the group, it's about group work and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would do 6, which is to try and agree on an equally effective solution moving forward.
Okay, nice, excellent. Anybody else has any opinions about this?
I agree with Mia. In a position like that, I will choose three, three, 4 and 6 as well, because I think that's the best way to resolve the whole argument and stuff like that within the group.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Nobody wants to kick John out of the group.
Um,
I would choose 3 and 6. Um, Definitely 3 to make sure that everybody understands that we should all respect each other. I'm sure that the person that left had a pretty good reason to leave. Um, and definitely do 6 and then reevaluate what needs to be done and redistribute the responsibilities to get the task done.
Nice.
Yeah, uh, I agree. 3 and 6 is the look thing to do. I understand why people. Your first thought might be to kick John out, but you gotta realize if you do that, then you only have 3 people left in the group to do the work of 5.
Yes, yes.
So that'll make sense.
Mhm. Anyone else has any other input, or can I continue?
Hi, just one more thing.
Sure.
So three, as with regard to setting boundaries, yes, I know it's conflict resolution, but I think in looking forward or reevaluating what the outcome is, they should set boundaries. You know, it would be a good idea to set boundaries when the group is formed then to avoid
Yes,
people
yes.
crossing lines from the beginning, but definitely four, communicate with the both of them. Initially, communicating us separately, meaning communicating with John and then communicating with Cindy and attempting to get them, I get both to communicate afterwards. So you would have heard John's side, Cindy's side, and then hear how the story coming together ended up as it is. And then, yes, six, looking for an equally effective solution.
Nice. I appreciate your responses. You guys have some really good ideas here. And well, this is to help you guys in groups. You guys can use this to help you resolve conflict if there's any in your group. So let me just go ahead and show you the answers. So we don't kick John of the group for his behavior. uh, we don't join in on the arguments and be biased, and we do set boundaries. We attempt to communicate with both John and Cindy, and if we reach a place where we really can't, get John and Cindy to agree, we agree to disagree with them. We help them to agree and disagree with each other, whatnot. And yes, we do agree on an equally effective solution. So you guys had a pretty good idea about how to resolve conflict after all of this, which is good. I hope you guys use this as a tool for when you guys are doing group work and whatnot. So decision making, we're moving on. So this is a process in determining or identifying what choices should be made, which displays the competency of a leader. So this is the decision-making process used by a leader. So a leader operates to accomplish goals, right? That's the whole point of leadership. Basically, we have to reach a goal and be successful. But in order to do that, we are going to have alternatives and evaluations of these alternatives, right? So a good leader, I would say, would include the opinions of others when making a decision. So you have to take into consideration what people are saying, regardless of if it is positive or negative ideas. You still need to make sure that you hear them and hear what their needs are and whatnot. But also, you have to make a rational and logical decision. So regardless of the opinions, you still, you let people know that you are including their input and you are taking it into consideration, but you still have to use your rational and logic to make a decision amongst the alternatives that you are given. So you select the alternative with the maximum benefit. And I don't mean the maximum benefit like it being just when you're operating an organization, money and whatnot. You select the one that are more people like, that will help others instead of yourself, You don't be a selfish leader, right? Leaders need to make decisions to carry out goals successfully. And here are some reasons why leaders need to make proper decisions. So you need to take initiative as a leader. So sometimes, people would say negative things that would question the integrity and morality of themselves. And you, as a leader, needs to take the initiative and say, well, hey, that is wrong. Or I understand what you're saying, and we need to come with another solution because it doesn't really seem to right and whatnot. It will help you handle and avoid conflicts, analyze your options, and it will be able to help you value others when you're making proper decisions, right? And to promote communication and compromise amongst the people that you're working with. So, in conclusion of today's productive class, in order to fully capacitate, compensate, and understand others, we must first look within ourselves, align our values to what makes us great leaders, have compassion and empathy for others, communicate, respect, and recognize influences of different cultures, ethnicity, and gender. Let's be equal here, okay? Acknowledge your faults, have passion for people, and also take initiative and caution. Listen to the cries of persons, develop effective strategies, and make decisions to help instead of wound others. This is what makes an exceptional leader who is capable of understanding others. Our sources, well, these are the sources that we used, and it's some pretty good sources for the information that we got. And you can use the links in the citations that we have to get more information if you need more information about it. So if you want to learn more about conflict and leadership and whatnot, you can use these links to get a more detailed um, answer about it, right? So thank you for listening, guys. If there are any questions, Mika and I will be taking them now. Are there any questions? Anybody? Or you guys understand everything well?
I think everything was
No,
very well explained, so I have no more questions. I have no questions.
Okay, that's nice. Anyone else?
I have a question. This goes back to the beginning of the presentation when you all were looking at um, gender differences
Yeah.
and um, thing. Was there any models that were presented in the text about dealing with the development of um, coming to grips with differences and with towards intercultural learning and that kind of stuff?
Mika? Mika did the research on this one, so
Uh-huh. Is Mika still here?
I'm not sure. Is she? Or did she leave?
No, she's still here, but she may not be answering.
Oh.
No, she's still here.
Oh, yeah. I saw it.
Hi, Mika.
Hello?
Hi. I was asking a question was during your research and reading, did you come across anything that spoke to um, tools that were used to measure the people's change in um, understanding and appreciating of other cultures?
No, I didn't put in anything about their
No, no,
change in
but in your
understanding.
reading, did you come across that?
No, not particularly.
So you didn't come across the riddle scale?
The what?
The riddle scale.
No, that doesn't sound familiar.
And what about the hoops intercultural learning process?
Hoots?
Hoops. HWPF.
No.
Is the riddle scale something is like a measure for persons to see they're like homophobic or whatnot, something like that. I
Well,
believe.
not necessarily only with that, but it had to do with general attitudes towards differences.
Oh,
Homophobia was one of the models that they looked at.
Is is the hoops for acknowledging the different
Yep, yeah.
cultures?
Different at the levels at which we move through to get to the point of intercultural understanding.
Alright.
Okay, all right. So some I just wanted to know if I was on the wrong chapter or not. All right. Any other questions? Anybody?
I have a question.
Okay, Miss Hamraj.
Um, at somewhere at the beginning, you always saying that when somebody has a quote unquote negative idea, you eventually choose to respect their idea. When you take this decision to respect their idea, do you still consider their idea as negative?
when we say we are respecting their idea, it means that we are not going to project negative feelings, like be dismissive about it and whatnot. So that's what we mean by respecting their ideas. But yes, we do see it as still negative, but we don't how to say what we don't rationalize we we don't jump to a conclusion, we take it easy on them and try to to um to reconcile and try to help them understand that the negative feelings that they were projecting were negative, or the negative ideas that they were projecting were negative.
I don't know if anybody else feels the same as I do, but I feel like the whole term of being of negative ideas seems a bit harsh when I don't know if maybe the person's idea would just be different to you. That's why I asked. I just feel like saying somebody has a negative idea is a bit harsh when it could really be that their idea is just different to you.
Well, I don't think it's so much as it being a negative idea, but it may be the manner in which it's been brought across that is negative. No idea technically is, well, there are some ideas that are negative, yes, but the manner in which it's being brought across is what I think the text really tries to get you to try and appreciate that when you're dealing with differences with individuals and when you're trying to navigate through activities that somebody may look at what you have to see as being negative, but the idea is to kind of move to try to understand the other individual. So the whole concept of understanding others is trying to understand why people behave the way they do. Because if you understand why they behave the way they do, then you will be able to probably understand more about why an individual will bring an idea to your group, let's say, or to your organization that seemingly from your perception is negative. Now, how do we illustrate that? Um, did you have any particular concept that you wanted to say, or if it's not negative, it's just different? What? Give me an idea of what you were thinking about that in that case, Ms. Imraj.
Um, just let's just say you're trying to get a task done and it's two people in the group and my idea of getting the task done is different to what the other person's idea is. I mean like that. Um,
Right. Go
and
ahead.
both ways that being presented obviously will get you to the proper end result. But like who am I to tell the other person, well, your idea is negative. I just don't
Well,
like the term negative idea, is basically what I'm trying
all
to
right.
say.
So that's not a that's not a negative idea. What may become negative there is the way in which the two
Right.
parties get to
So
communicate with each other. But
in
if you
that
think
case,
about if you think about somebody who comes with a really negative idea, like you're in a group. Let's go back to the scenario that Mr. Amlana brought up there. I think it was the yeah, these five people in a group. One person had to leave. That was Cindy, for whatever reason external to the group's activities, and then John decided to start a badmouth the girl and slander the girl. Now that is something that took place that was negative for the group, but somebody made it worse by starting to speak badly about the individual. I mean, we know this happens in groups all the time. Somebody does something, they have to drop out of class, and then people start to um, I know she always doing them kind of things. She's be dropping out class all the time and putting people in trouble. That kind of nonsense talk starts up, right? Would you sounds familiar, guys? It may
Very.
not be you doing the slandering, but somebody in the group starts to mouth off about the individual. So that's what we're talking about. Something negative happened in the group, but the way in which you manage the negativity can be in a negative manner, sort of like what John was doing, or you can use a more positive approach to trying to find a solution. So in dealing with negativity, there are methods that can be utilized to minimize the damage that an already negative activity or negative um, decision has impacted on the organized on the group or organization already. So I think the the gist of this chapter was really to try to push us to understand um, to try to seek to understand why other people behave the way they do. Because once we start to understand that, then we get to the point where we will have less headaches about trying to what's the word I want to use? Less headaches about the conflicts that we tend to end up in by focusing on the correct aspect of the situation rather than the only the negative aspects of it. That making any better sense to you, Ms. Hemraj?
Yes, sir.
All right. I would suggest that if you're having issues with this, you should probably go to the chapter itself and have a look at the the issues that come up with understanding others, and that's why it started primarily with, first of all, gender, and then it moved into culture, because we always look at differences rather than similarities. We have a tendency to look at people from the perspective of I different than them, and that has to do with us trying to maintain individuality. Um, and if you focus a lot of your attention on the individuality that you want to portray in a group or in an organization, as opposed to your commonalities, then those individual differences become your predominant focus as opposed to what your commonalities might be. So a commonality in this group of individuals here in this classroom is the fact that we're all members of the same institution, but we're different in the sense that each of us are coming from different programs. We are different time frames in the program. We have different roles that we play in the program. But in this classroom situation, we're all here with one objective in mind, the commonality of going through these concepts and trying to understand them. And in our understanding, try and explain it to each other. And that's what we want to look at. So in a lot of instances, the book is trying to tell us, or the model is trying to tell us, that we need to start to recognize that there will be differences, and how do we strategically deal with those differences, and how do we avoid unconsciously dealing with situations in such a way that you know we trivialize people's differences and create bigger problems. That's sort of like if we speak to, for example, people who might have different sexual orientations than ourselves, or consider, for example, if you come across an individual in your group who sounds like a guy who sounds effeminate, and your reaction to that person is you never really take them seriously. But because they sound funny or they speak funny or they behave funny, from your perspective, then what will start off as an initial difference between individuals will begin to to mushroom into a larger issue that takes place in an organization or within a group. Now I've seen that happen in both as a student and as a lecturer, that people who come in with different sexual orientations create a great deal of conflict, not because they bring different ideas, but because they are looked upon as different. And anything they come up with, you just oppose it because you don't like the lifestyle choice they made. But that's not your decision, is it? You follow what I'm talking about? How your reaction to an individual's difference can start to make you take anything they have to say as being unimportant and negative. Imran, that making better sense now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank
Yeah.
you.
That is the critical thing, because what we stop doing is we stop looking at the ideas of the individual and we just simply saying anything this person says had to be wrong because he gay, or she's gay or something along those lines. Um, and it gets worse when we talk about culture, because a lot of times we believe ourselves to be a concept that comes up here is the ethnocentric and the cultural centric thing, where we think our culture is superior to others, and that superior culture tends to start to criticize what anybody else comes with. It happens from when we deal with people from different countries, but it also happens within Trinidad and Tobago when you start to look at somebody who comes from a more rural background as opposed to somebody who comes from an urban background. We start to look down on each other, and when we start to do that, anything coming from any of the individuals starts to create an attitude towards that difference, and that attitude leads to conflict. And this is why conflict communication, all those things are critical in paying attention to how we treat with other people, so that we can really understand what's going on with other people. Because under, if we don't examine ourselves, that starts from chapter 1 or chapter 4, I should say, where you need to understand yourself and then remove those barriers that you are developing because you perceive yourself in that way. Then you're going to create a lot more problems in the situation. All right. Okay. Anybody else has any probing questions they wanted to ask the group? More the group than me, right? Okay. I'm not gonna hijack that answer there a little bit.
Yes, sir.
But sorry, miss, but the idea is that the the question evokes greater depth in your response, and
Yes,
uh,
I know. I would have, yeah, asked you to answer that question for me. I couldn't really.
yeah, well, again, and I've had the opportunity to go through this text maybe 20, 30 times already. And every time I do it, I always find different elements coming up. I learn something new about it. So I guess my experience with the material is a little more than everybody else's. So I expect limitations with your first run through. This is why I would say, always you could go back and read this text a few times, especially when you're not under the stress of having to present it. Read it back more leisurely. That's why listening to the online e-recordings of it, or the YouTube audio files might be something that you could do in a more relaxed nature, because this book has a lot of depth to it. And anytime I read it, I always find new things in it that I didn't pick up before, that kind of opens my eyes up to different things. Okay, that being said, these were two good presentations. Anybody else has any questions they want to ask at this time? Well, if there are no other questions, I'm going to stop the recording. Would that be fine with everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.